everybody, it is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. Welcome back to another episode of Stats, Trends, and Picks over here on That's Comical. And if you happen to be watching on a Wednesday, happy new comic book day. Well, I know this is a little bit late, but let's just face it, it was really hard for me to really get a video up before July, so if this does in fact get posted after the July 4th weekend, I really hope that everybody has a wonderful 4th. Stay safe, have a great time with friends and family, and enjoy all that amazing food before we get into all of the amazing comic book stuff that's going to be coming to us in July. So let's not even bother to beat around the bush and get straight into what happened in June of 2022. Well, for the month, it was definitely interesting once again because again, DC is just surprising me with all the negative news that's coming out in regards to DC Comics. I just seem to find myself gravitating towards these books. Maybe it's just because of the fact that I love these classic characters. I am really excited for Chip Zdarsky's Batman run in July. I'm so excited for Ram V's Detective Comics run in July, and of course everything that is currently unfolding between Dark Crisis and Flashpoint Beyond, along with all the other comics that I'm reading. I'm just having way too much fun, and every single time another solicitation comes out, I just keep seeing DC labels that are just intriguing me, more so than Image and Marvel and all the other indie companies, because at this point in time, I'm not really buying anything from any of the major indie companies like Vault Comics or AWA Upshot like I did very much so in 2021, and the numbers are here to prove it. 17 comics from DC purchased in June, 8 comics from the miscellaneous. Image, luckily, went up, and so did Marvel, but only by 1. But look at how many comic books went up in regards to totals in DC Comics for June. That is crazy, and even with a 5-week new comic book week, I only purchased 50 books. I was purchasing a lot more books at the time back in 2021, so who really knows where the trends are going to go? Of course, when we take a look at the percentages, we also see almost 35% of my overall purchasing went to DC Comics. Marvel has taken a massive dive. It is really struggling to get past the 25% mark, and who knows if that's going to change because of the big summer crossover that's coming out with Judgment Day, which is going to wrap the Avengers, X-Men, and the Eternals together, not to mention all the amazing stuff that Donny Cates is currently doing with Thor and the Hulk. I'm so excited to see how these stories will continue, and when we take a look at the purchasing statistics on the line graph, DC is, wow, look at that, everybody. It started close to the bottom, and look at how much it's gone up. Look at how high the indie labels were and went all the way down. Even Image is struggling to stay afloat in my mind. I mean, I literally just dumped another Spawn title, and I enjoy the Spawn comics, don't get me wrong. After a point where I was reading all 4 of the Spawn titles, that's the current original from Todd McFarlane and the 3 new titles that he created, I have now officially stopped reading Gunslinger, Spawn, and The Scorched. I literally just decided that I didn't want to continue reading The Scorched after issue number 7. Are they bad books? No, they're not, but if I'm not interested in the story, I just don't want to keep buying them, even if the price is right. But we will see. In the meantime, let's take a look at all of my predictions from June 2022, and let's see if I actually got any of them right. So when I take a look at June 2022, I didn't do so bad. For a 5-week new comic book month, I actually predicted 3 of them correctly, and I am really glad to talk about some of these books. I mean, I thought that for the first week of June, I was going to be giving it to Aftershock Comics' new title, Astronaut Down #1, but wouldn't you know, that book ended up getting pushed back 1 week, and I really had to scramble to figure out what was going to be my #1 pick. And I'm actually sort of glad that this did happen, because I will also say, Astronaut Down was an interesting starting point. It wasn't the best title that I read the following week in June, but I'm definitely excited to see how the story will unfold. But I am finally proud to say that I gave my first week of June 2022's top pick to Jeff Lemire and Justin Wynn's Little Monsters from Image Comics. This was issue number 4. Little Monsters, without a doubt, is one of the coolest and creepiest titles that's out there right now. It is such an interesting story in terms of atmosphere and story building. I am just so excited with every issue to keep seeing how this world evolves and how these children who are vampires evolve as well. The story arc is coming to an end after issue number 6, so I'm really curious to see if I'm going to continue. I have a feeling the answer is going to be yes, because right now Jeff Lemire is becoming one of my favorite comic book authors right now in the current market today. If you haven't read Little Monsters yet, I highly recommend that you get on it. Go back to issue number 1 and start moving forward. This is such an interesting title. You will just be enthralled and entranced by this world that Lemire and Wynn are building. So excited for issue number 5 next. For the second week of June 2022, I knew I was going to be giving it to Scotty Young's Twig number 2 from Image Comics. This story was great right out the bat, and as the story progressed in issue number 2, I just enjoyed this dark Jim Henson vibe that I got from these characters. There was such a great blend of drama and action and comedy in this. I am so upset that this is only 5 issues. I'm wondering if there's going to be another series that spawns out of this, because I don't think that when I get to issue number 5 that I'm going to want to leave this world. This is such an adorable adventure, and I just keep enjoying it with every single page as I turn the comics. Issue number 2 was such a joy. I'm so excited for issue number 3. For the third week in June, I thought that I was going to be giving it to another Aftershock title, which is called A Calculated Man. It was issue number 1. It came out when it was supposed to, thank goodness, but it was not the best read of the week. However, it definitely is interesting. I also heard that this specific title has officially gotten a deal with Hulu to become a television series, so I'm sure that people are going to be very interested in this, but I'm still going to be continuing on with this story as it progresses. However, I gave the top pick of that week to DC Comics' Jurassic League, issue number 2 of 6 by Daniel Warren Johnson. This is just so much fun. I smile when I turn every single page of this book, much like Twig, but this is on a completely different level. Superheroes and supervillains that you know and love as dinosaurs. I mean, the highlight of this book for me, I literally had to bawl out with laughter because the Wonder Woman dinosaur rides an invisible pterodactyl. How hilarious is that? Seriously, let that soak in for just a second. Jurassic League number 2, fantastic. You have to read this book. If you love Daniel Warren Johnson, if you want to see something that is completely kooky and out of the box, just know that you are going to enjoy this, and I cannot wait for issue number 3. For the fourth week in June, I got to admit it was really, really tough because I don't think that everything that I read was anything special, but everything was still an interesting and good read regardless. Nothing crazy special, but just good. And in the end, I decided that I was going to give the top pick to my predicted pick, which was We Only Find Them When They're Dead, issue number 11 from Boom Studios, and that was written by Al Ewing. I have been very much enjoying this story from the get-go, way back in 2020, and I am really excited for this final story arc. We're going further into the future, but it is really crazy to see how they actually connected this current story in the timeline to the very first story arc way back when. This was such an interesting cliffhanger ending, and I am really excited to see how Al Ewing is going to wrap this story up with the new arc. And for the final week of June 2022, I predicted correctly again. I gave it to The Department of Truth, issue number 19 from Image Comics, written by James Tynion IV. Every issue, this series just keeps getting better and better and better. This just is filled with mystery and intrigue, and every time you finish the book, you're like, God damn it, why'd you stop here? I want to continue reading. Something big happened in issue 19 in regards to Cole, and I am really curious to see how this third story arc is going to be wrapped up, because where we're going right now has got me a little bit scared for our main character, but knowing that he is now hunting the bizarro version of the Department of Truth, the Ministry of Lies, I'm really still trying to figure out the same thing that every other reader of this book is trying to figure out: who is actually telling the truth and who is lying. So that is pretty much where we conclude in regards to June 2022. So let's take a look at July 2022 and see what my predictions are going to be. It's going to be a regular comic book month, 4 new comic book day weeks, and I am excited for all the new releases that are coming, especially the continuation of Dark Crisis and finally the beginning of the Day of Judgment over at Marvel. So we are going to be looking at the first week of July 2022, and I am going to give it to Image Comics Twig issue number 3 from Scotty Young. There is no doubt in my mind that I am going to love this issue just as much as I do all the others that I've read so far. This is just a great read, and I know that issue number 3 is going to be just as enjoyable. For the second week of July, I am going to be giving it to the 12th issue of King Spawn over at Image Comics. I have to admit, even though Todd McFarlane is only writing Gunslinger Spawn right now, the artists and writers that have taken over his spot in regards to all the other Spawn titles are not doing a bad job at all. I think Sean Lewis is doing a phenomenal job with the King Spawn storyline, and this second arc is about to wrap up, and this is really what's really exciting me. I'm wondering if I'm going to continue reading this title after issue number 12. I mean, I really have appreciated where the story's been going. This is the only one that is really tying in close to the Dead Zone story arc along with the main title, so I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with King Spawn at number 12. When we look at the third week of July 2022, it's going to be a very big week. We've got everything from the beginning of Judgment Day to Superman Batman World's Finest. We've even got Jurassic League number 3, and the continuation with the new Fantastic Four issue number 2, which is written by the same person who I am predicting as the top pick of that week, and that is Peter David and the conclusion of Maestro World War M with issue number 5, wrapping up the Maestro trilogy. I have been loving Maestro since I just on a whim decided to pick up issue number 1 of the first of these 3 miniseries, and I just love what Peter David has done with this character. It made me actually go back to hunt down Future Imperfect, the original story that Maestro had his first appearance in, and everything that Peter David has given me regarding this character I have just loved. So I am so excited to see how Maestro is going to wrap up, and I'm even more curious to see what Peter David is going to be doing after this one. All I can say is that many people in the comic book community are saying, why is Peter David not writing an ongoing series for Marvel right now? Because everything that he's doing in terms of his miniseries for Marvel is making money because people are loving it. So hopefully we will see more from Peter David and maybe more from Maestro in the near future. And to top off the final week of July 2022, I really thought that I was going to give this top spot to the Department of Truth issue number 20, possibly We Only Find Them When They're Dead issue number 12, Stillwater 14 is coming out, even the brand new Detective Comics run by Ram V and Amazing Spider-Man 900, but no, I am giving this to the return of a true god of comics, especially from my days, and for many people earlier than that. And that is the miniseries Gambit from Marvel Comics, written by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Chris Claremont. We're going back into the 90s with Gambit and Young Storm. We've got Whilce Portacio doing all of the main covers. This is a 90s comic book fan's paradise. This is something that people like myself have been waiting for because we all loved Gambit when we were growing up. He was one of my favorite X-Men at the time, and I am just so excited to see the return of one of the greatest comic writers ever and see what he will do with this character if only for 5 issues. So that is going to wrap up my stats, trends, and picks for July 2022, everybody. I would love to see in the comments what you are excited for in July, and I'm really hoping that you have a great reading month. But in the meantime, everybody, I will see you in the next one.